Here. Layla. Yami, you're here. Josie, I think I saw you at the back. Linda, right there. Zakia, right there. Emily, I think I see you. Cam, Umar, you here? No. You're here. Umar. Caitlin, Gabriel, I see you. Iska, I see you. Cynthia, I see you. Alexandra, right there. Lily, I see you. Nat Nell, right there. Emily, right there. Justin, I see you. Mohammed, I see you. Uzair, where are you? Oh, you moved. Okay, I just didn't see you. All right. Age, I see you in the back. Brendan, I see you. Paige. Okay, yeah. There, Rihanna, you're right there. Emma, right there. Ariana, Kenya. I think I saw you, Kenya. No, you're not here. Okay. Tomas, I see you. Carla, you're Carla. Jacqueline, Summer. Jessica, I see you. Jennifer and Carissa. Perfect. Okay. All right. We were right about here. I think we were right about Piaget. I think, right? Again. Share screen. Okay. So sensory motor, they interact with objects in the environment and they start to learn object permanence, the knowledge that an object exists even when it's not in sight. The way you might remember that if you see those TikTok videos of people with their dogs and they put up like the blanket and then they run away and the dogs know where they are. It's kind of the same idea. You've seen those TikTok videos. And they start to have symbolic thought where they can represent things and understand like mental images. Piaget broke it into psychosocial stages, unlike Freud, that was psychosexual. And then we, of course, have Erik Erikson, that was uh, very similar to Piaget, but covered the entire life rather than just sort of into adolescence. Piaget just sort of stopped right there. What are we doing? We got that so far? Okay. The pre-operational stage, the kid learns in preschool, learns to use language as a means of exploring the world. And you have things like egocentrism, centration, and confirmation and irreversibility, which I'll walk through in just a moment. Does anyone know what egocentrism is? Try to look for it in the video if you're watching it in just a moment. Also, you know what this is? Jessica, yeah. Yeah. So my funny anecdotal story is I had a friend of my dad's, like a business partner years ago, and I was a little bit older, and his friend had a kid, and a 2-year-old, and 2-year-old's definitely still very much egocentrism. And the kid was always off somewhere, and then you'd hear like this random like loud crash, like glass shelves or whatever, just like knocking them over. And because the kid had egocentrism, he started laughing. And his dad would get like instantly pissed, like, stop laughing. And he would just laugh more because he could only see his side of things. That's egocentrism. Now, you can get locked into egocentrism as an adult. Sometimes, if I explain something to you and it's incredibly clear to me, I might think that you understood me, and that'd be egocentrism without maybe checking or maybe asking questions that was making sense or asking for examples. But it's when you're very much like kind of inside your own mind. Then we have centration, conservation, and reversibility, which I'll show you some stuff on the slide in just a moment on that. Now, I think there's probably definitely some credence to Piaget and Erikson because there is more you can do as you develop, as you get close to right around 2021. It's not that you're not conscious, it's just that you develop. Like, you don't take a hard science or math course your freshman year of high school. You take it your junior or senior year because cognitively you're more ready for it, typically. So, because there's more and more neuroconnectors as you're developing. So some examples would be sensory motor, very much sense-based, looking at object permanence. That's, by the way, 0 to 2. Pre-operational, 2 to 7. You can pretend, can't conserve logically or simultaneously, consider many characteristics of an object. Concrete operation, 7 to 12. You can think about things different ways. You have a lot of logic going on. 12 years to adulthood, and Piaget might argue that some people never get into this stage or get locked in one of these states, very similar to like Freud's idea about fixation. And then you get into like abstract reasoning. Some of this also drives morality. We talk about different types of morality yet? No. So there's a couple different types, and you'll see it again on the slides here. But let's see if we think of some. Well, I for sure have some examples, but I'm happy to hear from you all too. You have 3 conventional, just according to Kohlberg, by the way, 3 conventional morality. All you care about are the consequences. You have no frame for what is right and wrong. You just care about the consequences. Are you going to get caught doing something right or wrong? That's all you care about, punishments and rewards. So, for example, when I was, I think, about 5, I had this friend Neil that I could no longer play with after this incident because he destroyed the backyard fence. So, you know, those fences that have like, you'll have like a board and then like another board like behind it, like that. You can't really see through it. We decided to pluck out every other board to build the fort. Because why not? For kids. So we got as far as attaching like boards to the doghouse for like a fire escape. We were clearly going to build a condo by the time our parents got home. And we figured if we built our fort or our little apartment on the back of the doghouse, it we would not be in trouble, but we thought we would get in trouble if they caught us destroying the fence. But if we destroyed the fence and built our fort before they got home, they would clearly be proud of us. Well, the landlord was the upstairs neighbor, so they could see what we were doing, and my parents had explained to who they were renting from. We had to repair the fence and put it all back together. Did not end well, and I was no longer allowed to hang out with my friend Neil because it was his idea. I was like, do you really think we should take those out? He's like, nah, it's fine. They'll be proud. I was like, sure, sure. Consequences and rewards. That's all you care about. That's your pre-conventional morality. Then you have conventional. Conventional morality, consequences and rules. Like, you know, both of those. Like, what are the social rules? What does society say? And then you sort of have a hybrid of conventional, so rules and consequences. You have social conventional. Do you want to take a guess at what that might be? Social conventional, faced with morality. Give it a shot, Brandon. Yeah.
Scared of what others would think.
You're definitely in the ballpark. If you're not at the stadium. I had a coworker who I worked with who was actually found out later she was quite scary when she was angry, but she was my coworker. And we were salaried, and she did not always show up on time. And another coworker, but in a different department, was like, "Well, the princess is not in yet today." I was like, "No, she's here. No, she's on time." And he was like, "Well, she doesn't even work 8 hours." I'm like, "No, Bob, I saw her. She was here late because I'm not going to throw my coworker under the bus." Social, conventional. In the situation, you make a certain choice in terms of morality. So it's sort of like a hybrid model. I'm not advocating lying, but I'm not going to throw my coworker under the bus. I'm just not. Like, that's my coworker. I'm not looking to do that. And then you have post-conventional. I'll give you a hint if you want to give it a shot. It's a little more abstract. Do you have any ideas what an example of post-conventional morality might be? You're going to have all of this, you know, all the consequences, you know, all the rules and the consequences. So some choice is going to come in here for post-conventional. So let's say, yeah, give it a shot.
Ethics and
you're on the right track. It has to do with like sort of your abstract understanding. So like social deviance or protesting might be post-conventional morality. Another example out of psych textbooks we talk about is like there's a drug for someone that you care about who's fatally ill. And you go to the pharmacist and you're like, here's $2,000 for your drug. And the pharmacist is like, well, it's $4,000 because I invented it. You know, but I only have $2,000. So you break into the pharmacy and you steal the drug to save your family member or your friend or your loved one or your spouse or your partner or whoever you care about. And the means justify the ends for your post-conventional morality, which is on the slides too, by the way. But I just take pictures of the whiteboard. So that's an example, post-conventional. So like, does it make sense? In terms of the choice you might make. So we have the conservation, where they give a kid pennies. They go, how many pennies are there? And they spread out one row, and the kid said there's more pennies. Because let's say it's the longer one. That's the pre-operational answer for conservation. And then, of course, you have concrete operations. Third stage of cognitive development, which the school-age child becomes capable of logical thinking, but still not abstract thinking, but you're very understanding of concrete topics like math, science, etc. Anything that's very straightforward requires logical thought, be able to do at least according to Piaget. Now, obviously, when anytime we talk about any of these theorists, if you disagree, that's fine. Just justify it and tell us why you agree or disagree with them. So we're going to have this conservation so far, and you have concrete operations. Don't worry, business psych's coming. Lots of stories and background on toxic organizations that's on the way. Probably in this class period, possibly in the next one. And so is mock interviewing, so that you can do awesome when you're actually out there in the real world. So everybody have concrete operations. Just trying to be mindful of like the pace here. Then you have formal operations. Last stage, PJ, so we don't all reach this stage. You have abstract thinking. Relativist thinking is to be on formal operations. Basically, you can think about things. Brendan clearly made it to this stage when you were making that point the other week about like, are we in hell being on the planet Earth? That's formal operations all day long. Your presentations, you've all done formal operations all day long. The critical thinking questions, formal operations. Wrong pipe, not COVID, promise. Yeah.
So not everyone reaches this stage. Would you say that you can identify that in people who are a little bit like challenged, or is it going to be found in many people who are like normal but just a little slower mentally?
I would say if someone doesn't get something like a pretty straightforward concept, especially a little more abstract, that's when you would probably know. There are adults that just don't understand things. And I don't mean getting really deep down the rabbit hole. I just mean like things that are abstract that they should be able to understand. Then, yeah, you'd probably see just like a little slow, or someone that just like trying to explain something and they're just not getting it. They may be stuck in the concrete operations. And that's when like you've explained it more than one time. You've thought of different ways to make the information clear, and it's just not getting through yet. They probably didn't make it this far. There can absolutely be a lot of different factors to that. You guys ready for a video and some examples? All right, so this is the other part of the worksheet.
New babies aren't quite sure what happens to objects when they leave their sight. Sky's mom keeps disappearing and reappearing. No wonder peekaboo is so much fun. During their first year, however, infants will learn an important concept: object permanence. Everything has a life of its own, even if it is out of sight.
At Maya's age, babies know to look for the object, but they might not have everything else straight. 10-month-old Simon is about to make a classic mistake. Although he watched us place the toy plane under the white cloth, he'll look for it where he last found it, not where he watched us hide it.
Can you look at these two glasses? Do you think that they have the same amount of juice? You think they have the same? Okay. Now we're going to pour this juice into this glass. Now, do you think that this glass has more juice? This glass has more juice? Or do you think that they have the same amount?
That one has more.
This one has more? And why do you think that this one has more?
Because it's taller.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters? Or do they have the same?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
They're the same?
5.
Okay. Okay. Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more, or do they have the same? That one has more quarters? Why does this row have more quarters?
Because
It's more far away. All right, we're gonna play games with the grandparents, and we're gonna share them between me and you, okay? Okay. You think that we shared those fairly? No, why not? Well, what if we try this? Now is it fair? Yeah, why is it fair now? Can you tell me what you see when you look at that from where you're sitting? What are some of the things that you see? A cat. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing. Can you tell me what you see when you look at it from that stool? An owl. What is that? A goat. Okay, is there anything else you see? Right there, what is that? A tree. Another little tree. And can you tell me what I see when I look at this from where I'm sitting right here? Okay. Mm-hmm. So first we're gonna look at these two cups right here. Do you think there's the same amount of juice in this glass as there is in that glass? Okay. So we're gonna take the juice from this glass and pour it into this one right here. Now we're gonna look at this glass. So do you think that there's more juice in this glass, more juice in this glass, or do you think that they have the same amount? Okay, why do you think that they have?
Just because it's the same doesn't mean it has juice in it, but this one is just wider and this one's skinnier, but they have the same.
It says, if you hit a glass with a hammer, the glass will break. And then this one says, Don hit a glass with a hammer. So what happened to the glass?
It broke.
It broke. Why did it break?
Because the hammer's hard.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break. And this is the second rule. Don hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
Nothing.
Nothing happened. Why didn't anything happen?
Because the feather was flat.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break. And the second one, Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
It broke.
And why did it break?
The rule says if you hit it off with a feather, it'll break. Or if you hit it off with a feather, broke. Each stage of knowledge is characterized by a different way of
So a little context. Can we give me an example of egocentrism you saw in the video with the kid? Or any of the Cam? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That was definitely one of them. Rihanna. Yeah. Yeah. That's egocentrism because they're so caught up in themselves, so they think that's absolutely it. Yeah. Yeah, Brendan.
Would egocentrism be like a kid who closes their eyes thinks the people in their world won't be able to see them if they just close their eyes?
Yeah, probably. Or when I thought I could make myself disappear when I was really little, I just like put a blanket over me. My parents were like, "Oh wow." Not really true. You have Vygotsky's theory. He felt that it was very much a social process. That's some of that modeling. Then you have scaffolding, which is building on previous knowledge so that you become more and more capable with learning. Will that be an example of scaffolding? What do you think? To probably use it every day. Or when you use scaffolding when you learn something. Yeah.
It's like giving them fundamentals of like more complex concepts. Groundwork, like you learn simple addition, and then simple addition you go to more complicated, like with double digits or even triple digits.
Or parentheses, or yeah. Or you start with addition and subtraction, then you move into multiplication and division. Scaffolding, yeah, just building on prior knowledge. Pretty good. You have the zone of proximal development. That's basically like that transitory phase where you need the help of others to do something. So, like Vygotsky likes to talk about like what the child can do alone and what the child can do with the help of a teacher. So, sort of like we're sort of that sweet spot where like, okay, I need help at this point. Vygotsky also talked about waiting for the child to think a lot advanced cognitively. So, as you think about the zone of proximal development, there's definitely an organizational example too. Think about your work. Where is your zone of proximal development at work? that would be what you can do on your own before you need somebody else to help you. So like if you work in service and the customer is mad about their bill and you do some sort of like wait staff, you get the manager, zone of proximal development, needs the help of others. Same thing with kids development. And then you have autism spectrum disorder, developmental disorder. Usually has it's a spectrum. It has to do with thinking, feeling, language, social skills, how the child interprets their theory of mind, how they understand themselves. Vaccines don't do anything to cause autism. That's been completely debunked. It was also thought that marijuana could cause schizophrenia in teenagers. That's been debunked also because the line of schizophrenia is still flat, although the increase in both the quality and the usage of marijuana has gone up over the last 30 or 40 years. So it's not causing schizophrenia, and vaccines are not causing autism. So literally, like, 2 days ago, my friend from high school, she's diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar disorder. When she's walking and she doesn't have the right number of steps between the lines in the sidewalk, she walks through it again. She's very intelligent. She just has those issues. She's been reading a lot about autism. She said, I think I'm autistic. I was like, you're autistic? How's that even possible? Because I'm not really getting that vibe. I've known you all these years since high school. But what she said is when she goes into customer service and has to be highly social with people, she doesn't feel like she's being herself. And she feels like when she's in social situations, she's working extra hard to adapt to the situation. It doesn't feel natural. So she's like, I think I'm autistic because it's a spectrum in terms of how you express yourself. I had some grad students do some research actually on messaging devices like picture imaging devices and students acting out less because they could actually get their emotions across through the screens. And a lot of times people that have autism are highly intelligent. It's just they have trouble expressing where they're coming from, language, social skills. It might be nonverbal, etc. But I was a bit blown away because I was like, I just didn't think she would have autism, but she made some pretty good case for it based on some of her research about just not feeling like herself in social situations. That would be potentially autism. Talk about temperament. We watched the video. Easy. So that means you're regular, adaptable, happy, difficult, irregular, not adaptable, irritable, or slow to warm up. You gradually adjust to change. That's typically well established at birth. And then, of course, we can think about how much nature, I would say nature probably shapes this more than nurture because it's kind of immediate with babies. Whereas as kids get older, if there's any parents in the room, no pressure. You can certainly tell me any experiences along those lines if you'd like to, or share or not, but very genetically driven. So the attachment, now in your playbook, there's opportunity for Goodwill Hunting towards the end to explore attachment theory. There's some guidelines I've given you on that. Different types of attachment, and this is supposed to shape your relationships in your adult life. Secure, willing to explore, upset when mother departs, but you chill out as soon as she comes back. Avoidant, unattached, explores without touching base with the mother. Ambivalent, insecurely attached, upset when the mother leaves, and then pretty angry or irate upon her return. Or disorganized, disoriented, insecurely attached. Sometimes abuse or neglect are a factor. Child seems fearful, dazed, and depressed in terms of the psychosocial development, and it's supposed to shape relationships as an adult, whether they're romantic or otherwise, based on what sort of attachment you form when you're a kid. Bless you. Pretty good. Oh, Al, you can have 10 more seconds. It's fine. Trying to keep an eye on your note taking so that you have the time to write down whatever you'd like. The Harlow monkey experiment, why a surrogate mother provides food for the infants. So I need to go back, anybody? We good? Infant monkey. But the infant spends all the time with the cloth. So that's the idea, is that you need like the nurturing and the touch. And just kind of related. There's supposed to be like, I think it's 5 languages of love. So if you're in a relationship, you might want to Google those, because you might be more successful with your romantic partner if you know what your language of love is versus theirs, so you communicate well. So basically, we're saying like comfort, contact, comfort, and attachment. So when you think about the examples of the different types of attachment, how much contact does maybe the mother have, or the father with the kid, in terms of how that forms that attachment and that bond? Good. Okay. See your self concept. That's how you see yourself. Maybe you have yourself. Some of that is like your internal talk, like what you believe is a reality. Some of that you can think about like fixed versus growth mindset. Do you know the difference between fixed and growth mindset? Ever heard of that?
It's like fixed is like you're fixated on one, like things only work out this way and that's how they're always gonna be. Growth mindset is more like you're open to different ways or different solutions. Yeah, different ways of viewing things. So like you're open to change.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not letting the past shape the future. When you talk about fixed versus growth mindset, like whatever happened yesterday does not have to be the way it'll go down today. That's your growth mindset. But that also speaks to self concept in terms of how you see yourself. Um, Also, how you interact with others socially can shape how you see yourself, whether you're confident or not. And then, of course, infants separate me from others. Does anyone know what internal versus external locus of control is? Which one's better? Because it has to do with your self concept. Internal versus external locus of control. Any idea? Heard of that? If you haven't, internal locus of control, you are in charge of what happens in your life. You studied for a test and you get an A, you did a great job studying. You get an F, you should have studied better. And you own that. Internal locus of control, definitely better of the two. External locus of control, it's outside of you. That test was too hard. It's the professor's fault. External locus of control. Yeah.
I just heard Jordan Peterson the other day talking about how you're able to take accountability for not actually do more control of life because you take accountability for the outside factors which control.
Yeah. It's a really good life skill to have, to take accountability. It's good to be able to own if you made a mistake. There's none of us that are going to be perfect at work, in a relationship with our family, our friends. At some point, we're going to make a mistake or an error. Being like, okay, I messed up. Let me work through and have some growth. But if you're like, it's everybody else's fault, kind of remove yourself. That's not a good thing. Yeah, Jordan's. Yeah, right. You absolutely want to have a sense of that ownership. Then we have Erikson, trust versus mistrust, first stage. So the infant either learns to feel confident and trust others or mistrust. So like a lot of times in terms of like how the child's raised, if like they get a lot of encouragement, they'll probably have a lot of trust. Then you have autonomy versus shame and doubt. Second stage, like do they feel confident and free to make their own choices, or do they feel like not confident and ashamed? Second stage. Initiative versus guilt, very similar. Kind of the same thing. Do they take initiative or do they feel guilty? Industry, I don't really like how he did this. This means like confidence in like school. Like you take on school, like you dive in first when you're a kid, that's your industry, versus inferiority. Like, are you confident in like your school abilities, or are you not confident your inferiority? So we thought it was like a developmental crisis that you either dealt with or did not deal with well, that determined sort of where you were. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. I just want to make sure that I keep that up there long enough for everybody to take their notes, etc. So some examples. Oh, you need me to go back? Yeah, talk to me. Absolutely. Do not want to fly through these. So an example of trust versus mistrust, how the infant learns their needs are met. If a baby needs food and comfort and affection are met, they have a sense of trust in people, and they want those needs to be met in the future. If their needs for food and comfort and affection are not met, they develop a sense of distrust and don't expect that from people in the future, as an example. So that's usually 0 to 1 year old right here. Toddler to 1 to 3 years old, you have your autonomy versus shame and doubt. Is a toddler successful in controlling their own actions and developing their independent, or they attempt at being independent or blocked and a sense of self-doubt a doubt and shame for failing. So that's either one or the other for autonomy versus shame and doubt for your second stage. You have your preschool age, 3 to 5 years, initiative versus guilt. Learn to take responsibility. To your point, very important to take responsibility on that at a young age. You'll be more successful in life if you can be responsible and take ownership. Also, there's just like professionalism, things working out at work, whether you're dealing with clients as an entrepreneur or you're dealing with working with your boss and other people, owning it is really important. Remember working in a supervisory role, and I said, you know what? Here's my advice. If it doesn't work out, you can blame me. I was pretty confident I was giving my coworker good advice and some of the people that I supervised, but I had taken that ownership. If they concede to control their behavior, they develop that sense and capable of a sense of initiative. If they fail, they feel irresponsible, anxious, and develop a sense of guilt. And then elementary school, 5 to 12 years, initiative versus inferiority. Like I said, it's as to do with school. Do they do well in the academic world? That's awesome. They get confident, self-esteem, or do they fail in the academic world? So then they have that inferiority. So we have adolescence from about age 13 to the 20s, during which a young person is no longer physically a child, but is not yet independent, self-supporting adult. Puberty, the physical changes that occur as sexual development reaches its peak. And usually there's a lot of rebellion as an adolescent. You usually try to kind of assert who you are with your parents. So when I was in high school, I would, because I knew how to drive since about age 9, I would borrow my mom's car. Yeah, I didn't. I drove along the coast. My dad did the pedals when I was like 9. And then what? No. I was way younger. I was like 5 or 6 driving the car, but I was like 9 when I actually did the pedals, like on the country. You know the story where I'm coding it wrong. But yes, it was like about 9. So clearly, when I was 16, and no license yet, I had 7 years of experience. Clearly, I mean, it's not practicing every day. It's not really 7 years of experience. So at the high school, my mom worked in the accounting office at a dealership, like a car dealership, and she would park her car outside, and I had an extra set of car keys just for emergencies. And I wasn't even being a bad teenager. Like I wasn't going out and partying and doing alcohol and drugs. I was literally just, friends were like, hey, can I have a ride home? And I was like, sure, I know how to drive. So I would walk over from the high school, take mom's car, and then I would drive the speed limit. I drive really well because I knew if I got stopped, I would be done driving for a while. I never got stopped or pulled over. And it was always just like driving across town, like Oshkosh, Wisconsin, like 60 or 100,000 people. It's not like a big city like Chicago. But a couple times I came back, and because she worked at the car dealership and did the accounting office, there's a maintenance department, sometimes cars were in the spot where her car was parked, which presents a problem because if your car's not in the exact same spot, I'm going to get busted. So I convinced all the adults that worked with her to not say anything, move cars out of the way, and park in the exact same spot. She never noticed the odometer. I'd lock the car and I had to walk home before 5 o'clock. So I had about a 2-hour window from high school. I told on myself in my early 20s. And she's like, they never told me. But that's sort of an example of what we might do when we're in adolescence trying to assert ourselves. Or when I got my license, got it when I was 17. I tried to get it when I was 16. I'm pretty sure the woman that I took the driving test with was sexist because I don't know a male that passed. And then I had a male driver's ed instructor and I passed. Like, I think she hated guys or something. I don't know. But I don't know anybody my age that passed that was a guy with her at all. So I got my license when I was 17. So my mom says, don't drive on the freeway. That was clearly instructions to go directly to the freeway and go up and down the exits, just to be a rebel without a cause, because of that adolescence, like rebellious nature as we're trying to assert ourselves. This so far?
How did you manage to like convince all of her coworkers not to tell her? Like that, I did that to my mom's like boss. You tell her right away.
Oh, I didn't deal with the boss. I dealt with the maintenance department that was like in like the garage like area with the cars. I never actually went inside the accounting office where she would have seen me. I was like, I know how to drive. I just don't want to get in trouble with my mom. Nothing wrong with the car. I didn't damage the car. Please don't say anything. Could you please move the car out of the way so I park in the same spot? Please don't tell her. I don't know. They were all guys. I don't know. Maybe there was some sort of camaraderie. I don't know. They never told her. I just asked them really nicely, please don't. I guess it's very persuasive. PGA's formal operations are revisited. Abstract thinking is possible. Personal fable, you might have experienced this semi-recently. You might be experiencing it now. You have kind of this sense of invincibility, like nothing's going to happen to me because I'm young, or the idea of like your own mortality is like way off, like grandma's old, but that's not going to happen for a really long time. You have the imaginary audience principle. People believe that other people are just as concerned about their thoughts and characteristics as they are. A little bit of that egocentrism sort of coming back. Not always the case. People usually aren't as interested in you as you think they are. I mean, like strangers, like people that you like would like meet out in the world. That's the imaginary audience or personal fable. Like we drove from Oshkosh to Green Bay in about 30 minutes. No, don't know if that makes any sense for context, but it's about an hour. We were going 115 to 125 the whole way. We had a radar detector and a laser detector that had a 3-mile bubble around the car, both directions that were around curves. Yeah.
I did the same thing one time, but from here to Milwaukee. It was an hour 50. I made it in 33 minutes.
Yeah. Super dangerous. You totally could have.
No, I did during COVID when there was no one on the road.
Oh.
The first month of COVID, so April, so there was no one.
Oh.
So I only endangered myself, no one else.
Probably only you. But that belief that nothing's going to happen. High speeds, it could have not ended well, could not end well for us with going that fast. Kind of the same thing. But we talked about this. This is just a recap of what I drew on the board. Post-conventional accepted social norms like protesting, social deviance, disobeying like a law that you don't agree with to try to change the law. That's basically consequences, norms, then you decide what's right for you. Or like lying for self-preservation. If you're working somewhere and it's toxic and you're lying so that you don't have something happen to you, or I had a stepbrother for about 3 years as an adult. But my dad dated his mom. They got married, they got divorced later for several years. So when I was like 10, he was like 13. And he's directly responsible for my love of gangster rap, NWA, FTP, and Tupac because of the exposure. He's my African-American brother for like a couple of years as an adult. But there was once when we were kids where he didn't want to get in trouble because he was a teenager and he was driving, and he was like, "Can you cover for me?" And say I was here at this time. And I would never lie to my parents, but I was trying to help my brother not get in trouble. Probably more of this post-conventional because I was rationalizing why it'd be good. And they're like, and they couldn't figure it out. They're like, they're like, Jason never lies. He must have really been here. It was my brother. I was trying to cover for him, So, so some examples. These are kind of dark. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And social norms are interesting because they tend to be different for all of us than, like, say, a celebrity. Lady Gaga wore the meat suit a couple years ago to make a statement. If any of us do that, they think we are like psychotic. But because she's a celebrity, she's just eccentric in terms of what social norms are. So And they're also what's culturally relevant too. Like it's clearly okay to charge people more in Mexico if you don't look like you're Mexican. That's like a cultural norm because I experienced it. I was telling you guys. Maybe it's all foreign countries. Yeah. Makes sense.
You know, they still do it to us, even like if they catch us talking English or something.
Oh,
they're like,
that's messed up.
still, they still go out and they're like, oh no, no, no.
Because you're not from there.
Oh.
It's just like my kids are not allowed to speak English in Mexico on movies.
Wow.
They either speak Spanish or they just don't speak with it. Like it's here. Like, yeah.
Oh, I've heard.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for one, and then what you're saying about.
Yeah, I purposely like if I was on my phone in English, I was like in the car. And rental cars are better because there was recently somebody that had a problem with like a taxi in Mexico. Like an American, like I guess the taxi driver like hit him to rob him and kidnap him. But once you're in a rental car, you kind of blend in. So have that. So we have role confusion, fifth stage, trying to have your consistency of yourself. So you might act out, or you might do stuff, or you might dye your hair an unusual color when you're a teenager, or you might, once you're like an adult, you might like pierce your ear. Like you might do something like unusual, just trying to figure out who you are. It was like 19. We were in Kentucky, and a friend of mine like said that I didn't have the guts to like pierce my ear. I'm like, oh really? Yeah. Didn't really need to do that. Just trying to find a consistent sense of self. And then that rebellion, probably my example of taking my mom's car all those times. I figured she wouldn't call police or anything, so I guess she could have, but she never happened to go outside between 3 and 5 for any reason to check her car or lunch or anything ever. So I don't know. She was pretty surprised when I told her. I don't think you can fake that. Yeah. Yeah, it should be a double dash. Yeah. I just want to make sure. Yeah. I think you could probably write it either way. You probably put a slash if you wanted. I mean, so that's normal. Like disagreeing with your parents. You may disagree with them now. That's still pretty normal. Because this when you might still live at home, disagreements with your parents, you're just trying to have your sense of identity, who you are, you're going to differ and disagree with them. I was thinking at some point during the semester showing you guys pictures of Mexico if you're down at some point. Yeah. I thought it was pretty epic. I thought it was pretty amazing. So I kind of have one. I just have to sign into the cloud. If I do Zoom, then I can do, I think, all of them. But if I sign into the cloud, it's only like the ones that I paid for, which were like $70, which is crazy. But that's because we were in Disneyland, the Disneyland in Mexico, Xcaret. So, so we have adulthood begins in early 20s, ends old age and death. You have young adulthood, middle adulthood, late adulthood, emerging adulthood, time from late adolescence to your 20s. I don't know if we're all really adults when we're 19. I think we're getting pretty close. We could be. It just kind of depends on like that transition. I would say probably the more responsibilities you have, the more adulting you're doing. The less responsibilities, less adulting you're doing. We can stop here. You guys have been awesome. I know it's like about a minute out. So I'll see you all on Tuesday. There is a test you should probably take pretty soon in week 9. It can be take home because you guys have totally, again, earned it. Was that the question you had?
The midterm. Is that Tuesday?
By Tuesday, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll say the other test by Thursday of next week. It can be open book, open note. There's study guides in the classroom in week 8 and week 9. Yeah. Yeah. So the study guides for the midterm, like if it's a study guide and you fill in the blanks, you get points. There's also lectures the following week of like outlines of those. And then the midterm study guide, if you scroll down to the very bottom below student resources, there's a whole bunch of stuff on the final and the midterm that I just gave you that's helpful. I can show you that in Blackboard if you want.
Yeah.
You want to see that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you have, here's your study guide right here, midterm study guide, right in week 8. Test 2 study guide notes. This is a PowerPoint that I prepared for you all. And if you go to the week before, a lot of the stuff in the PowerPoint is in your study guide. Yeah.
There's no time on the test, right?
There's no time on the test. I could put one on there, but I'm not going to do that. Study guide test 2, like this right here, this is worth points, but I'm allowing open book, open note. The lecture I just showed you has a lot of that information, maybe not all of it, maybe all of it, but a lot of it's right there for you. I feel like we dive so headfirst into the material that the test is just, I mean, you probably already know it. And from an assessment standpoint, if you take 5 hours teaching yourself stuff to do well in the test, because nobody's test is the same, stuff like that's assessment. So
midterm by Tuesday,
this
study
test
guide and test number 2 by
Thursday. Does anyone have any concerns about that deadline? Talk to me about them now.
The study guide?
This is the study guide, yeah.
I'll say, so we have to do study guide.
Would it be better to say Tuesday and then Tuesday? Would you guys feel better about it if we did it like that? Like we'll take a full week. Let's do that. So Tuesday by midterm, the following Tuesday, the other test.
Okay.
Then all we have left will be test 3 and the final.
Gotcha.
And probably a final activity and obviously playbooks. That's the alternative assessment. The class, as big as you are, we do need to start presenting 1 to 3 people every class period around November 1st. Otherwise, we won't finish at the end. That's why it's due 6 weeks early. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend.
Way to see my answers I put for the midterm, because after I had taken, I was like checking the score and stuff, and so I was